Today I'm going to teach you about a specific type of fast-moving, high-value tie called the sevenfold tie. We're going to look at how they're made because that will help explain why they're so desirable and valuable. We're going to look at a couple I have on hand here so that you can learn how to identify a sevenfold tie in the wild. And then we're going to look at some sold data so that you can see the proof is in the pudding. Now, first, what makes these very different from a standard tie? Here's a standard tie. Almost all the ties hanging in closets right now are produced from 3 or 4 pieces of fabric that are joined together. And what gives a tie its fullness and body is an interlining piece that's usually a piece of wool. You can see a little bit of it peeking out on this particular tie. Sevenfold ties are completely different. They're made from a single piece of fabric that is folded 7 times. And that interlining piece is optional because the fabric being folded over on itself is what gives the tie its fullness and shape. Let's pop over to a blog post by Turnbull and Asser. Yes, that's how you pronounce it. Which, by the way, bonus tip, uh, great label to pick up, scoop up any tie you find in this brand, and it's a great buy. But this is all about their sevenfold tie. And good quality blog post here. I'll link it in the description below if you want to read the whole thing. But this highlighted portion really tells us everything we need to know. These are made by hand by a master seamstress. It takes 3.5 hours, and it takes double the amount of material to make one of these ties. So when you think about mass producing ties and bringing them to the retail market, the production cost on a sevenfold tie is much, much higher. So typically you'll see this in high-end brands that are fantastic to pick up anyway, but when you find the sevenfold tie, it's going to be a real home run. And then the rest of the post, they're just going through the process. You can see this is all being done by hand. Side note, they do still use an interlining piece, although that is optional. But you can see the different folds coming together, and they're pinning it and they're sewing it. This is all done by an artisan, by hand. This is handcrafted stuff here. They even apply the labels by hand, which is really cool. And then the end result is something like this. This is a completed sevenfold tie with both of the tips opened up, and you can see all the folds in there. So let's go check out the 2 that I have on hand, and I'll show you how to identify these when you're working the racks at a thrift store. All right, so I have 2 sevenfold ties here that are not overtly marked, but both of these still do have some clues with the way that they're marked. You'll see this Peter Millar, the tag on the skinny end says hand folded. So the word folded there is going to make me investigate that as to whether it's a sevenfold tie. And then this Daniel Cremieux, it's marked as limited edition and it's hand numbered. That's kind of interesting as well. Even if they didn't have those clues, there's still some hallmarks you can look for on a sevenfold tie to help identify them. One, I can't really show you on video. It's going to be the fullness. It's a nice thick full tie. It feels different. But then when we turn them over to the back, a couple things we'll notice right away. Number one, this fabric on the back of the big tip is called the tipping, and these are both what is called self-tipped, meaning the fabric is the same as what is used on the front of the tie. That's called self-tipped. And then another clue, let's get one out of the way here. And then what you'll also see, this thick stitch on the back of the tie is called the bar tack, and this is much higher up than on a standard tie. Let's compare that to, I've got a more standard tie here, this Burt Pulitzer horsebit one. So you can see the tipping, it's not self-tipped. And notice the bar tack is much farther down. It's just a couple inches above where the fabric comes together on the big tip. This is much higher. And the reason for that is, on a sevenfold tie, they want you to be able to open it up like this, and you can actually see the folds in there. And you can even do this on the little tip. You may also notice this little tip, it's much wider than what you normally see. That's another clue. The bar tack is high up, and you can open up the little tip as well and see the actual folds that are in there. So let's look at some of our sold data. We're in men's ties, buy it now pre-owned. I've searched seven-fold tie, and we only have 613 results. So just to give you an idea of kind of how rare and special these are, that's probably like 0.1% of all pre-owned tie listings on eBay. And then let's flip over to our sold listings for that same search, and there are 870 sold. Might not knock your socks off, but that's right about a 30% quarterly sell through. Um, the average sell through rate for the category overall, pre owned buy it now, hovers usually around 10%. So sevenfold tie outperforms that by 3x, or what I would call a sales velocity of 3. And keep in mind, this is just a keyword search. We haven't factored in any specific brands, which can have quite an effect as well. So let's check out some of our sold prices here. Roberto Vellini did not know they made sevenfold ties, so that's a great example of when you can take a non-sellable trash brand and have something sellable if it's a sevenfold tie. Now take a look at these next three right here. Robert Talbot. Um, Probably one of the most commonly listed tie brands. You find it everywhere you go. There's cajillions of Robert Talbot ties. I pass on them most of the time. I'm only buying Robert Talbot when there's a compelling reason to do it. I need at least one other thing for me to pick up Robert Talbot other than just the brand label. And it being a sevenfold tie is a great reason to do so. Look at these prices: $100, $70, $50, and they make it easy for you right there with the sevenfold label. So no guesswork. And you'll see quite a few Robert Talbots. So by being able to identify these and cherry pick them out of all the trash Robert Talbot, clearly you can make some money. Ketone is a fantastic brand to pick up overall. If it's a sevenfold, make sure you're pricing appropriately, which is going to be higher than the non-sevenfolds, right? More Robert Talbot. Daniel Cremieux, another trashy of the trashiest trash brands. But they make what I would call like an introductory level sevenfold tie that retails for like around $100 or something like that. That is the only time that you're going to pick up Daniel Cremieux is when you have a sevenfold tie, and like we just saw, they're usually marked limited edition, and you can get around $30 for them. This seller was running a sale, but still 26 with shipping. More really nice Robert Talbot. There's a $30 Daniel Cremieux right there. Um, oh, somebody left money on the table. Mo Pickens, I'm sorry. You made a mistake here. You left money on the table. We got a Brooks Brothers sevenfold tie. And another one of those brands, there's just thousands and thousands of them. It's one of the most listed tie brands on eBay. And really, another really good brand to cherry pick. But this is priced just like a run-of-the-mill Brooks Brothers tie. 17 bucks plus 4 shipping. Being a sevenfold tie, I would have priced this at 40, 45, 50 bucks, something in there probably. Go ahead and look up those sold listings. Let me know if I'm on the mark or not. Now let's check out our high to low sort so we can see what's really moving the needle. This one we just did scroll by Luigi Borelli, so you'll look into that brand. Dolce Punta. I just like to say stuff stupidly. Wow, $150 on a Robert Talbot. Congratulations. Okay, Bulgari. Bulgari, fantastic tie brand to pick up. I think the majority of their ties are sevenfold ties. Don't worry about it though. Just scoop up Bulgari anytime you find it. More Robert Talbot, more Ketone, Bulgari, and Ketone. Okay, Isaiah, another good example. Isaiah, you're going to pick up all the Isaiah ties you find, but not all of their ties are sevenfold. So you don't want to price a sevenfold tie like a regular Isaiah tie, which might go more like 45, 50 bucks when you could be getting 100. Don't leave money on the table. Another one that I know of is Suit Supply. Suit supply, fantastic. Suit to pick up, decent tie to pick up, in that they sell really fast, but they're like $25 to $30 ties. They do make a sevenfold that will go for quite a bit more. This is why we want to know our tie types, and how to identify them so that we can maximize our value. Now that you know how to identify sevenfold ties, just keep an eye out for them when you work in the tie racks. The tie feels particularly robust and full. Give it a look over, give it a quick check, open it up, check is that bar tack high up, open it up, sevenfold, cha-ching, let's pick that up. If you like this kind of tie info, I have downloaded everything I know about ties into two documents. One is Ties 101, which is general tie knowledge and focuses on types of ties, how to list ties, how to store and inventory ties, all that good stuff. And then the other one is the brand sourcing guide, where I go over 100 labels and what you should buy, what you should cherry pick, what you should leave behind. If you want to take your tie knowledge from 0 to 8 years down the line, go ahead and pick those up. I'm going to link them in the description below.